9 people went up a mountain in February 1959. They were experienced. This matters. These were not 9 people who did not know what they were doing. They had done this before. They understood cold and altitude and risk in the specific way that people understand things when they have been cold and high and at risk and survived it. They looked at the mountain and calculated and decided the calculation came out fine. They were wrong. But not in any way the calculation could have predicted. The mountain was called Kholat Syakhl. In the local Mansi language, this means dead mountain. The Mansi did not go there. They had a reason. Nobody asked them what it was. The group set up camp on the slope on the evening of February 1st. 9 people, a tent, enough equipment for experienced mountaineers in a Soviet winter. They ate dinner. Someone wrote in a diary. The entries are normal. Mundane even. The kind of mundane that is only unbearable in retrospect. At some point between 9 p.m. and midnight, something happened. The tent was cut open from the inside, and not unzipped, cut with a knife from inside. In multiple places, they ran in their socks in minus 30 degrees Celsius. Away from the tent, they did not go back for their boots. They did not go back for their coats. The tent was behind them, and whatever was behind them was not as bad as whatever was in front of them, and they ran toward it anyway. Think about what that means. Not abstractly. Actually think about it. You are an experienced mountaineer. You understand, in your body, what minus 30 degrees Celsius does to a human being without adequate clothing. You have felt cold before. You know what it costs. And you left your coat. Because the coat was in there, and you needed to be out here, and there was no version of this in which you went back for the coat. Whatever made that calculation come out that way, that is what was on the mountain. The first 5 were found on the slope in the days that followed. They had died of hypothermia, moving in a line directly away from the tent toward the tree line. Some had tried to build a fire. The branches were broken off high up, which means they were alive enough to climb, aware enough to try, present enough to make a decision. And at some point, they made the decision to stop moving and start building. And we do not know what made them stop moving, and we never will. The last 4 were found months later, buried under 4 meters of snow in a ravine. 1 had a fractured skull, 2 had crushed chests. The force required, a forensic expert said at the time, was comparable to a car crash. No external wounds, no bruising on the surface of the skin, nothing that had hit them from the outside. The force had come from somewhere. It had left no evidence of itself. Lyudmila Dubinina was missing her tongue, and her eyes, and part of her lips. The case was closed in May 1959. The official conclusion was that the hikers died due to, and this is a direct quote from a Soviet government document, a compelling unknown force. That is the conclusion. That is what they landed on. A compelling unknown force. The Soviet government, 1959, full resources of a nuclear superpower, months of investigation. Something compelled them. Unknown. The theories exist. All of them have been examined. All of them have problems. Avalanche doesn't explain why experienced mountaineers didn't notice avalanche conditions when choosing the campsite. Infrasound from the terrain causing mass panic doesn't explain the injuries. Military weapons testing doesn't explain why you test weapons on a slope where 9 students were camping and then leave the bodies in a configuration that raises every conceivable question. The Mansi, no evidence. And also the Mansi did not go to that mountain, which if anything suggests they knew something the investigators didn't. 65 years of theories, none of them close. All of them, when you push hard enough, arrive at the same place. We don't know. We actually, genuinely, after everything, do not know. The mountain is still there. It is called Dead Mountain. It was called that before February 1959, and it is called that now, and the people who named it for a reason. And whatever the reason was, it was sufficient to keep them off it for generations, and then 9 people went up anyway, and the mountain did what the mountain does, and the name was correct, and nobody asked the people who named it, and that's the whole story. Their names were Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, Yuri Doroshenko, Yuri Krivonishenko, Rustem Slobodin, Nikolai Thibault-Brignolel, Lyudmila Dubinina, Semyon Zolotaryov, Alexander Kolovatov. They were in their 20s. They had plans. The mountain was not aware of the plans. Subscribe.